A lot of folks raise their hand and say, what about me? Why should we just be focusing on this group and I'm still struggling in the organization? Right? This is so to help get more buy-in, we have to be just working to increase equity without stigma. Travian Shorters, who's from an organization called Be Me, offers it as asset framing. Are we looking at all of our employees and thinking about the assets they bring to our team, or are we looking at them as liabilities? I know y'all are crunching them. Are you looking at your team members as liabilities? Had one organization yesterday start talking about, hey, we need to save money, so we're reducing headcount. And they're like, Kemi, how do we go about letting people go, knowing that we have to save money? I was like, first of all, figure out how much money you have to save and what that actually means for your team. But from the cultural standpoint, if you come to me and tell me that we're just making cuts because of headcount, even if I am still in the organization after those cuts, I'm still going to be thinking about how does my head count in this next equation versus, hey, we are making some cuts that are strategic in order to make sure more people can thrive in our organization. Lets me know that, okay, you're trying to think from my perspective and the company's perspective to help us move forward and do this more successfully. Those are two different, same kind of things got to happen, but it's not about just the numbers. If we make it just about the numbers, then people will start disengaging. So it's important that as we answer this, and some folks are saying, how do we get more people to buy into this? I need you to put in the chat, who decides when you're ready to embrace a change? Who decides when you're ready to embrace the change? Some of y'all looking like, y'all know the answer. The answer is I do, like whoever you are is answering, right? So then thanks Melissa. That means then we literally, the most fair thing we can do is help people answer this question, what's in it for me? When we're talking about DEI as an initiative, any initiative really, but specifically we're here to talk about DEI. What's in it for me? We can pay employees to sit down, shut up, and listen to us, but we cannot pay them to trust us or answer this question authentically. And then we've been adding this question, what's in it for those I care about? Have this conversation as your C-suite. Have this conversation with your organizational leaders. Have this with your direct reports. We're talking about what's in it for me. Not everybody's going to do this altruistically, but I'm going to show you this next piece, and then I'm going to give you a handout that will have the definitions here, but I want you to understand that we are working to increase equity worldwide. We are focusing, we have to separate these though, because there are, in terms of equity pathways, there's family equity, housing equity, career equity, social and relational equity, economic equity, educational equity, governmental equity, environmental equity, health and mental health equity, spiritual and religious equity, and then legal equity. Whew. Most people have not seen it broken down this way. So when we start talking about something like social justice, it becomes a combination of social and relational equity and then legal equity. Some people say that doesn't belong in the workplace. We're like, yeah, that's somewhat true, but the equity pathways, we need all of them. And when there's a lack of them, it starts to impact us at work. We at Fears Advantage specifically focus on career equity. By being an employer, you have to provide career equity. But notice, we make the conversation about career equity, and it already starts to lower people's anxiety. We're not asking you to solve the world's problems. We're asking you to focus on how you're providing career equity for those you're employing. Now, for us, the reason we chose career equity is because as we increase equity in someone's career, we actually give them a pathway to increase equity across the board. So that's why it's super important for us. We're just going to zoom in on career equity. Now, what I want you to do, I'm actually going to provide you with definitions for each of these. And career equity, again, the EI is not just for minorities. We're talking about career equity. Are we providing a fair path for people to thrive in your organization? So what I want you to do is I'm going to put the prompts on here and describe each one of these areas. And I want you thinking on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you score yourself, with 1 being strongly disagree and 10 being strongly agree. For example, awareness. I'm informed about the various career development opportunities accessible to me in our organization and what is needed to access them. So you don't have to put in the chat, but just keep tracking along as I go through this, and we'll also give you a handout when this is done. Access. I have fair entry points to apply for relevant career development opportunities. aligned with my skills and values. Again, scale of 1 to 10. Opportunity, I've been invited to participate in roles/projects that would lead to career development or advancement after investing my time and effort. Safety, I feel I am free from physical, intellectual, psychological, and emotional harm. Now, if we just stop here, this is what EEO will require you to do: provide equal access and opportunity. Now, if you give your team the bare minimum, which is these 4, then they're going to give you the bare minimum. If you want to see the rest, do me a favor, type thrive in the chat. If you want to see the rest, right? If you're like, hey, we're actually going to go, we want to go beyond the bare minimum. Because otherwise, and something that's important to know as you are typing thrive in there, is if you're only going to go up to safety in your team, it's important that you let them know that so people can make a choice whether or not they want to stay with your organization. The challenge is a lot of people are saying they want to create an environment where everyone thrives, but their actions communicate something different. So it's important that, again, trust is going to be increased or decreased by our behaviors. So if you say you want folks to thrive, I want you to just check in on, based on this scale, how would you consider yourself in thriving? So belonging, the next level. I feel included because my authentic identities and contributions are acknowledged, considered, and valued, especially in decisions that directly impact me. Again, scale of 1 to 10. I have the best available tools, information, and support needed to do my job effectively. Development. My role is optimizing my talents with relevant training opportunities to expand my capacity/skill sets. Advancement. I have upward mobility on a clear path for role expansion aligned with my career goals. We separated development and advancement because some of y'all are in flat organizations, so people may not advance, but do they have the ability to develop their careers? And then autonomy. I have the independence to do the work I'm hired to do with the freedom, trust, and ownership in my role. So obviously you can see this is the opposite of micromanagement. And then legacy. I am making a lasting, meaningful difference through my role while receiving compensation and benefits that enable thriving in other areas of my life. So you're keeping a track of the scale of 1 to 10 here. We move away from just a job description to creating a Thrive plan for our team members and for the clients who bring us in, because we know that not everybody has a pathway to thriving in their organizations currently. I just want you to understand, when you see this diagram in your workbook, this is how a lot of people have been positioning thriving in an organization. That if you're at the lower levels, you only get the safety. Again, if this is all that you're giving to your team, just let them know that so they can make decisions on how to move forward in their lives, right? A lot of people say, okay, you're at your entry level, this is all you get. And you can maybe get some of this belonging, resources, and advancement once you move to middle management. But you cannot thrive here until you're at the executive level, or if you can even get there. We're saying, no, that's an old way of doing things. That's cultural inequity. This is what we're talking about. Do people have the ability to thrive regardless of what position they're in your organization? So it's not a conversation of saying everybody has to get exactly the same thing. It's like, what does thriving look like for your employees, which is why we're asking to create a Thrive plan to make it the most real for you all and the most measurable for you all.